Welcome to the Madison Motor Podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. Today, I'm going to recap the NBA, NHL, and college basketball games from yesterday. Look ahead to tonight's games in each sport. We'll go over the Australian Open action from last night into this morning. Look ahead to the rest of tonight's action in the quarterfinals. News and notes and best bet. All right, NBA, we will recap the games from yesterday and look ahead to a busy window for tonight. Cavaliers over the Knicks, 93-95. Cleveland 29-19, Knicks 23-25. Pelicans over the Pacers, 117-113. Pelicans 18-28. Indiana 17-31. Bulls over the Thunder, 111-110. Bulls 29-17. Oklahoma City 14-33. And the Suns over the Jazz, 115-109. Suns 37-9. Jazz 30-18. Now I look ahead to tonight's game, 7 o'clock. You have the Nuggets and the Pistons. My projections, Denver by 11 and an eighth, total 214.2. Meanwhile, it is 7.5 and 217.5. I'm going to lay the 7.5 with Denver. Charlotte, Toronto. My projection is Toronto 5 and 5/8, total 220.6. Meanwhile, it is 3 and 221.5. I'm laying the 3 with the Raptors. Clippers, Wizards. My projection is Washington by 7 and 3/8, total 214.7. Meanwhile, it's 4 and 218. Tough one. I am going to go lay the points with the Wiz. 7 o'clock, Pelicans 76ers is a makeup game from December 19th. My projection is Sixers by 13, total 214.3. Meanwhile, it's 8 and 216. I'm going to lay the 8. 7:30, Kings Celtics. My projection is the Celtics by 9 and 3/4, total 219.05. Meanwhile, it is 9 and 220.5. Close all around. A slight under. TNT. You have the Lakers and the Nets. My projection's Nets by an eighth, total 223. Meanwhile, it's Lakers 2.5, total 227. Under. A lot of people are out for this game in Brooklyn, so under. I get it, Anthony Davis is back, but I think the Lakers' defense will be improved with him back in the fold. 8 o'clock, the Spurs and the Rockets. My projection is San Antonio by 2, total 223.05. Meanwhile, it is 4.5 and 235 under. 10 o'clock, TNT, Mavericks, Warriors. My projection is Golden State by 6.5, total 209.55. Meanwhile, it's 3 and 209.5. I'm going to lay the 3 with Golden State. And then the Timberwolves and the Trailblazers. My projection is Minnesota by 2, total 220.7. Meanwhile, it is Minnesota by 3, total 229.5. Meanwhile, I'm going to take the under in that game. All right, now I'll move on to the NHL. We'll recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to tonight. There's some interesting results for sure. Ducks over the Bruins 5-3. Anaheim is 21-6-7. Boston 24-13-2. Rangers over the Kings 3-2 in a shootout. Rangers 28-11-4. LA 21-16-6. Stars over the Flyers 3-1. The Stars 21-16-2. Philly 13-21-8. Golden Knights over the Capitals 1-0. Golden Knights 25-15-2. Washington 23-11-9. Wild over the Canadiens 8-2. Minnesota 25-10-3. Montreal 8-26-7. Avs over the Blackhawks 2-0. Avs 29-8-3. Chicago 15-20-7. And the Flames over the Blues 7-1. The Flames 19-12-6. St. Louis 25-12-5. Now I look ahead to tonight's games. Busy night. 7 o'clock, the Sabres and the Senators. The Sens are minus 184. Buffalo's plus 152. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 106. Unders minus 114. Buffalo plus 1.5 is minus 168. Ottawa minus 1.5 is plus 134. When in doubt, with a big favorite that's a bad team, go with the dog. Buffalo plus 152. Stars, Devils. Stars minus 137. New Jersey plus 114. Over under 6. Overs minus 104. Unders minus 118. Stars minus 1/2 is plus 176. Devils plus 1/2 is minus 220. Tough one. I'm going to go with the over. Coyotes, Penguins. Penguins minus 465. Coyotes plus 350. Over under 6. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Penguins minus 2.5 is plus 104. Arizona plus 2.5 is minus 128. I think Pittsburgh is the third team I've seen this season with a minus 2.5 puck line. The other two being Vegas and Colorado. For this game, I'm going to go over 6 minus 114. Golden Knights, Hurricanes. Canes minus 194. Vegas plus 160. Over under 6. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Vegas plus 1/2 is minus 158. Carolina minus 1/2 is plus 128. I'm going to go with the under in this game. I think it's a lower scoring game than people expect. 7:30, Flyers, Islanders. Isles minus 230, Flyers plus 188. Over under 5.5. Overs even money. Unders minus 122. Flyers plus 1/2 is minus 142. Islanders minus 1/2 is plus 116. It is insane that these two teams have the same number of points. And the Islanders are just significantly favorites. That's saying something. But for this game, I'm going to go Islanders puck line minus 1/2 is plus 116. 8 o'clock, Panthers, Jets. Panthers minus 170, Jets plus 140, over under 6.5, overs minus 105, unders minus 115. Florida minus 1/2 is plus 142. Winnipeg plus 1/2 is minus 176. I'm going to take the over. 10 o'clock, Oilers, Canucks. Edmonton minus 140, Vancouver plus 116, over under 6.5, overs plus 104, unders minus 128. Edmonton minus 1/2 is plus 172. Vancouver plus 1/2 is minus 215. These two teams have the same number of points and are 4 back of a playoff spot. This is a big game. And the team that I think is going to win is going to be the Vancouver Canucks, plus 116. I'm going bold and ballsy. And last but not least, Predators, Kraken. Preds minus 178. Kraken plus 146. Over under 5.5. Minus 110 each way. Preds minus 1/2 is plus 144. Kraken plus 1/2 is minus 178. I'm going to go with the Kraken in regulation. Or I'm sorry, the Preds in regulation at minus 110. Kraken in regulation is plus 230. No way. I like Nashville regulation. Minus 110 against the Kraken. All right, now I'll move on to college basketball. We'll recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to the games for tonight, which last night I think was a busier night between the two nights, tonight and yesterday. Kennesaw State over Jacksonville, 76-68. High Point over Winthrop, 65-56. Wake over BC, 87-57. Longwood over Hampton, 73-49. Belmont over Eastern Illinois, 90-56. UMKC over Spurgeon, 111-44. Oakland over Michigan Dearborn, 104-61. South Dakota over Western Illinois, 75-72. George Mason over St. Joe's, 77-71. Jacksonville State over Bellarmine, 65-60. Ole Miss over Florida, 70-54. Towson over Delaware, 69-62. Lafayette over American, 69-56. UNC Wilmington over Northeastern, 74-68. Morehead State over Tennessee State, 67-54. Colgate over Loyola Maryland, 65-52. Norfolk State over Morgan State, 82-62. Virginia over Louisville, 64-52. Maine over New Hampshire, 71-64. Binghamton over Hartford, 74-64. Coppin State over Howard, 83-81. Florida A&M over Jackson State, 67-64. Alcorn State over Bethune-Cookman, 70-67. North Carolina Central, Maryland Eastern, 75-63. SC State over Delaware State, 64-62. Northern Arizona, Sacramento State, 70-65. North Carolina over Virginia Tech, 78-68. Murray State over Tennessee Tech, 79-53. Tennessee Martin over SIU Evansville, 76-60. Texas Southern over Alabama State, 73-66. Southern over Miss Valley State, 172. Prairie View over Alabama A&M, 72-48. Grambling over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 76-65. Number 5, Kansas over number 13, Texas Tech, 94-91. And double overtime. What was the game of the night? San Diego State over UNLV, 80-55. Eastern Washington over Idaho State, 89-63. Santa Clara over San Diego, 78-74 in overtime. St. John's over Seton Hall, 84-63. Weber State over Southern Utah, 94-82. Or 92-84, my bad. Idaho over Portland State, 84-79. And number 15, USC over Arizona State, 78-56. Now we look ahead to tonight's game, 6:30 CBS Sports Network, Richmond, Rhode Island. I project Richmond 3 1/4, total 139.1. Meanwhile, it is, let's see here, Rhode Island by 1, total 135.5. I'm going Richmond plus the 1 and minus 106. SEC Network, Alabama, Georgia. My projection is Alabama 18, total 150.75. Meanwhile, it's 14.5 and 160. Under. 7 o'clock, ESPN 2, Clemson at number 9, Duke. My projection is Duke by 19 and 5/8, total 144.1. Meanwhile, it is 11.5 and 145.5. Laying the points. ESPN number 10, Michigan State, number 24, Illinois. My projection is Illinois by 4.5, total 142.9. Meanwhile, it's 5.5 and 143. Very close. Slight edge, Sparty. DePaul, number 14, Villanova on Fox Sports 1. My projection is Villanova by 22 and 3/8, total 140.3. Meanwhile, it is 17 and 135. Laying the points. Rice State, Northern Kentucky. Rice State 1, total 143.35. Meanwhile, it is 1.5 and 145.5. Under. William and Mary in Charleston. I project Charleston 14 and 1/4, total 148.65. Meanwhile, it is, let's see, 13.5 and 155.5. Under. Fordham, Dayton. My projection is Dayton 19, total 134.7. Meanwhile, it is 13.5 and 129.5. Laying the points. Columbia, Yale. My projection is Yale by 18.5, total 145.95. Meanwhile, it is 16.5 and 149.5. Under. Siena, Iona. My projection is Iona 24.5, total 141.35. Meanwhile, it's 15.5 and 138.5. Laying the points. ESPN News, Cincinnati, Temple. I project Cincinnati by 6 and 3/8, total 134.6. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 134.5. Laying the points. Missouri State and Indiana State. My projection is Missouri State by 12 and 5/8, total 144.45. Meanwhile, it is 5.5 and 145.5. Laying the points. Northern Illinois and Ohio. My projection is Ohio by a whopping 25.5, total 137.1. Meanwhile, it is 17.5 and 136.5. Laying the points. Eastern Michigan and Bowling Green. My projection is Bowling Green by 10, total 152.5. Meanwhile, it is 7.5 and 152.5. Laying the points. Akron, Central Michigan. My projection is Akron by 13 and 7/8, total 141.2. Meanwhile, it is 12.5 and 139.5. Slight over. Western Michigan, Kent State. My projection is Kent by 15 and 3/4, total 137.55. Meanwhile, it's 10.5 and 131.5. Over. Buffalo, Toledo. My projection is Toledo by 4 and 7/8, total 149.9. Meanwhile, It is 4.5 and 157.5. Under. Miami of Ohio and Ball State. My projection is Miami of Ohio by 2, total 151.3. Meanwhile, it is 2.5 and 149.5. Slight over. 8 o'clock, Kansas State at number 4 Baylor. My projection is Baylor by 23 and an eighth, total 134.75. Meanwhile, it's 14 and 136.5. Laying the points. St. Thomas and North Dakota State. My projection is North Dakota State by 17 and 3/8, total 147.35. Meanwhile, it's 8.5 and 150.5. Laying the points. Syracuse Pitt. My projection is Syracuse 8.5, total 140.35. Meanwhile, it is 4.5 and 139.5. Laying the points. Southern Illinois and Loyola Chicago. My projection is Loyola by 16 and 16 and a quarter, total 133.6. Meanwhile, it's 12.5 and 126.5. Laying the points. Actually, no. Take the back over. Maryland Rutgers on the Big Ten Network. My projection is Rutgers by 3 and 7/8, total 136.2. Meanwhile, Rutgers is giving 3.5, total 132.5. Over. 8:30 SEC Network. Number 1 Auburn at Missouri. Yes, Auburn's number 1. My projection is Auburn by 16 and 7/8, total 142.95. Meanwhile, it's 13.5 and 141.5. Laying the points. CBS Sports Network, Georgetown at number 20, UConn. My projection is UConn by 21 and 3/8, total 147.3. Meanwhile, it's 15.5 and 148. Laying the points. 9 o'clock on ESPN, Mississippi State at number 12, Kentucky. My projection is Kentucky by 11 and 7/8, total 143.4. Meanwhile, it's 9.5 and 142.5. Laying the points. ESPNU, Texas TCU. My projection is Texas by 5 and 3/8, total 127.25. Meanwhile, it's 3 and 123. Over. Nevada, Colorado State on Fox Sports 1. My projection is Colorado State by 12 and 7/8, total 147.45. Meanwhile, it is 8 and 152.5. Oof. Under. Fresno State, New Mexico. My projection is Fresno 12 and 3/4, so 140.6. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 139.5. Laying the points. Wyoming and Boise State. My projection is Boise by 8 and 3/4, so 133.65. Meanwhile, it is 5.5 and 131.5. Laying the points. 10 o'clock, Pac-12 Network, Colorado, Oregon. My projection is Oregon by 9 and a quarter, total 139.05. Meanwhile, it is 8 and 136.5. Over. UC Santa Barbara and Cal State Northridge. My projection is Barbara by 13 and 3/8, total 133.55. Meanwhile, it is 7.5 and 132.5. Laying the points. Air Force and San Jose State. My projection is San Jose State by 2 and a quarter, total 129.95. Meanwhile, it's 1.5 and 125. Taking the over. And 11 o'clock on ESPN, number 3 Arizona, number 7 UCLA. It's the game of the night. My projection is UCLA by 4, total 149. Meanwhile, it's Arizona by 3.5, total 151.5. Wrong team's favorite. Give me UCLA plus the 3.5 and plus 132 to win the game outright against Arizona. All right, now I'll move on to the Australian Open. We will recap the matches from yesterday, and we will look ahead to the matches for tonight into tomorrow morning. We'll start with the men's. quarterfinal. 6-seeded Rafael Nadal over 14-seeded Denis Shapovalov in 5 sets. And then into this morning, 7-seeded Matteo Berrettini over 17-seeded Gael Monfils in 5 sets. And then tonight at 11 o'clock, you have 4-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas and 11-seeded Jannik Sinner. I think it's going to be a great match. These quarterfinals have been amazing so far. Sinner's minus 130, Tsitsipas is plus 112 on the odds. But I'm going to go who is in theory the underdog. It's Stefanos Tsitsipas. I'm going to say 4 sets plus 480. Tsitsipas 3-1 plus 480. And then at 3:30 a.m., 9-seeded Felix Auger-Aliassime and 2-seeded Daniil Medvedev. Medvedev's minus 750. Auger-Aliassime is plus 530. I'm going to go Medvedev in 4 sets. So Medvedev 3-1 plus 240 as my pick in that one. And then women's last night, and then this morning, and then I'll go over tonight, and then into tomorrow morning, essentially. Quarterfinal last night, Madison Keys upsets 4-seeded Barbora Krejcikova in 2 sets. And then 1-seeded Ashley Barty over 21-seeded Jessica Pegula in 2 sets. And tonight at 7 o'clock, you have 27-seeded Danielle Collins and Elise Cornet. Collins is minus 290, Cornet's plus 240. I'm going to go Collins in 2, which is 2-0 Collins, minus 110. And at 9 o'clock tonight, you have 9-seeded Iga Swiatek and Kaya Kanepi. Swiatek is minus 420, Kanepi's plus 330. Set betting, we go Swiatek 2-0. Which is minus 145. So it's been a fun tournament. I can't wait for these semifinals. Madison Keys is on a great run right now. She's in the Final Four, amazingly enough, in the women's side. We'll see how she does. We'll see if Nadal comes through. So it's going to be a lot of fun within these next couple days in tennis. All right, now we'll do news and notes for today. Not a lot. The Hall of Fame announcement's going to be today. It's going to be interesting to see who gets in. A lot of big names are on the ballot this year. They're going to announce it tonight on the MLB Network, I think, at 6 o'clock. But now I'm going to read off the ballot. Bobby Abreu, Barry Bonds, Mark Burley, Roger Clemens, Carl Crawford, Prince Fielder, Todd Helton, Ryan Howard, Tim Hudson, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, Tim Lincecum, Justin Morneau, Joe Nathan, David Ortiz, Jonathan Papelbon, Jake Peavy, Andy Pettitte, AJ Brzezinski, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Scott Rowland, Jimmy Rollins, Kurt Schilling, Gary Sheffield, Sammy Sosa, Mark Teixeira, Omar Vizquel, and Billy Wagner. If I had to make my ballot, I'm going to go with Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, David Ortiz. Unpopular opinion. I'm sorry. If Big Papi, Bonds, and Clemens are all on my ballot, I think A-Rod belongs. Steroids aside, he was a great player. He was. And maybe it's the Yankee fan in me, but I think A-Rod has matured. Since everything went down, he owned up to his mistakes. And he was just a great player. I think people just forget that point, and people just say that he's just not a good player because he was on steroids, and the steroids made his stats look great. But he had good seasons without the steroids. So did David Ortiz, and so did Bonds and Clemens. So that's my stance on A-Rod. So I'm putting him in. I'm going to throw in Curt Schilling. I'm going to put in Sheffield, Sammy Sosa. And that's my ballot. So again, Bonds, Clemens, Ortiz, A-Rod, Schilling, Sheffield, Sosa. So we'll see how this goes down, and I'm certainly looking forward to for tonight. So regarding the New York Football Giants head coaching search, Brian DeBall got a second interview, and it looks like Brian Flores and Patrick Graham will too. Sean McDermott speaks via Zoom with Brian DeBall's possible departure. Josh Allen will be in the loop, and no decision will be made without Josh in terms of next offensive coordinator. And Josh has been highly complimentary of Ken Dorsey. So that's just interesting stuff that has to be said right now. Gronk is debating on next year as he tweets, year 11 in the books, year 12, question mark. Brian Leftwich is a Jags head coaching finalist as he had a second interview with the Jags. Bears head coaching finalists, Dan Quinn, Jim Caldwell, Matt Eberflus, and Dennis Allen. Oh my God, if they hire Dennis Allen, I think Chicago would lose its minds. Nobody would like that hire. But they should have hired a GM first. They should hire a GM before a coach, the Bears. They missed out on the best GM candidate that there was this year in Joe Shane, who took the Giants job. So the Bears better get it right here. Caldwell would be good. I like Caldwell. Dennis Allen, yes, he's a good coordinator, but he was a failed coach of the Raiders. You know how I feel about failed head coaches. Dan Quinn, similar thing, failed coach of the Falcons, but redid his reputation with Dallas. And then Eberflus is interesting because he did a great job with that Colts defense this year. And I honestly thought that Vic Fangio, the ex-Bears defensive coordinator and former Broncos head coach, would get an interview, but he didn't. And the Bronco candidates, Dan Quinn, Nathaniel Hackett, and Kevin O'Connell. Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator for the Jaguars under Urban Meyer. That would be ridiculous if he got the Bronco job. And then Kevin O'Connell is the offensive coordinator for the Rams. I really think Kevin O'Connell should get the Bronco job. That would be a nice hire. I like that call a lot for Denver. So we'll see who gets all these jobs. Matt LaFleur wants Aaron Rodgers back. As he says, there's no debate in front office about keeping Rodgers in Green Bay. We're all on the same page, he says. Saints owner unsure on Sean Payton. Gail Benson says, I don't think any of us know. There's some rumors going around about him potentially going to Fox, as there's rumors circulating about Troy Aikman going to Amazon once Amazon gets their package, and Payton, in theory, will replace Aikman on Fox. So we'll see about that. Trent Williams questionable for Sunday with his ankle sprain in the NFC title game. If he doesn't play, that is a huge loss for the 49ers. Antonio Brown wants to play with Lamar Jackson. As he says, he wants to play with Action Jackson next year. And Lamar responded on Twitter. Paul George says the surgery is a real option, as he can miss the rest of the season if he undergoes the elbow surgery. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then maybe they could just tank the rest of the year. Zach LaVine came back for the Bulls yesterday, so that was good news. Anthony Davis likely to come back tonight against Brooklyn, as we talked about that earlier. Rudy Gobert's calf strain is mild, as he missed the Suns game yesterday, but not expected to miss extended time. MLB and the Players Association met yesterday, but they're meeting again for the second day in a row. And it feels like progress, and I think it is progress that they're meeting back-to-back days in person. So that's really cool. Hopefully something gets done within the next couple weeks. And the league is willing to cancel games. The league is open to losing games over outstanding issues in the CBA talks. I don't think there's going to be any games that are canceled, honestly. A top linebacker decommits from Texas A&M. Harold Perkins, a number 4 overall recruit for 2022, is set to visit LSU this weekend. The 76ers are waiting for James Harden, as Daryl Morey wants to keep Ben Simmons past the deadline with hopes of a superstar being available this summer, and everyone's talking about James Harden because it's not seemed to be working in Brooklyn. The college basketball AP poll is out. We talked about Auburn being the new number 1, which is amazing. 2's Gonzaga, 3's Arizona, 4's Baylor, 5 is Kansas. 6 through 10, Purdue, UCLA, Houston, Duke, Michigan State. 11 through 15, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Texas Tech, Villanova, USC. 16 through 20, Ohio State, Providence, Tennessee, LSU, Connecticut. And 21 through 25, Xavier, Marquette, Iowa State, Illinois, Davidson. Good for Marquette getting into the poll. And good for Davidson, too. Both those teams deserve it big time. And some sports-related news, as Sarah Palin tests positive for COVID ahead of the New York Times defamation trial. So that's unfortunate for Sarah Palin. Hopefully she'll be okay sooner rather than later. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. Best bet so far this year is 14-2. I said yesterday that it was 12-3, but I was wrong. It was actually 13-2. Now it's 14-2 with North Carolina beating Virginia Tech last night. I'm sticking to college basketball for today's best bet. And I'm going to lay 2 units on Fresno State, minus 4.5 against New Mexico. I just think that Fresno State is better than New Mexico, and they should beat them pretty easily. So I'm going to lay the 4.5 of Fresno State against New Mexico for my best bet of the day. All right, so that's it for today's show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the games in college basketball, NHL, and NBA, looking ahead to tomorrow's games in each slate. Maybe I'll have an activity for you guys as well. And don't forget about the Australian Open. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.